Oliver the Western Engine. Dear Margaret, we both wanted to call this book Little Western Engines, but publishers are stern men. They did not approve. They, of course, don't know the trouble we've had with Oliver. We hope he has learned since, but goodness knows what will happen when he finds he has a book all to himself. I know. If Oliver gets uppish, we'll send Messrs. Kate and Ward onto him. That'll teach him. The Reverend Wilbert Awdry. Donald's Duck. The Fat Controller has reopened a branch line. It roams along the coast by sandy beaches and seaside towns till it meets the small railway at a port where big ships come. As Duck has made friends with the small railway engines, the Fat Controller asked him to take charge. "Your work in the yard has been good," he said. "Would you like to have this branch line for your own?" "Yes, please, sir," said Duck. "Very well," said the Fat Controller. "I hope you will work hard and be a credit to me." Duck is very proud of his branch line, and he works very hard. His two coaches, Alice and Mirabelle, are painted in great western colors. They take passengers to the small railway. Duck also has some trucks in which he hauls away the ballast that the small engines bring down from their valley. The Fat Controller uses this ballast for his railway. Duck cannot do all the work himself, so Donald and Douglas take turns to help him. The Fat Controller has built them a shed by the small railway. Duck felt his responsibility deeply. He talked endlessly about it. "You don't understand, Donald, how much the Fat Controller relies on me." "Ah, hey," muttered Donald sleepily. "I'm Great Western and—" Crack, crack, crack! "What?" "Ye heard, crack, crack ye go. You need an egg laid. Now he should let an engine sleep." "Quack yourself," said Duck indignantly. He stayed awake, wondering how to pay Donald out. At last he said to himself sleepily, "I'll ask a driver in the morning." "He says I quack as if I'd laid an egg. Let's pay him out." "Quack, do you?" his fireman pondered. "I know," he said, and whispered. Duck giggled and his driver slapped his leg in the light. "Just right," he said. "It dealing off a joke." That night, when Donald was asleep, they popped something into his water tank. "We've done it," he whispered to Duck. "They won't hurt her, will they?" asked Duck anxiously. "Bless you, no. They're both kind men. She'll come to no harm." A duckling popped out of Donald's tank at the first water stop. Both driver and fireman goggled with surprise, but Donald laughed. "Nay, do Donald who's behind this," he said, and told them what had happened in the shed. The duckling was tame. She sheared the drivers and firemen's sandwiches, and rode in the tender, quacking at intervals. The other engines enjoyed teasing Donald about her. Presently, however, she hopped off at a station, and as they couldn't wait to catch her, there she stayed. But before they reached home, Donald and his driver and fireman consulted together and made a plan. That night, Donald's driver and fireman got busy. When Duck's crew arrived to look him over in the morning, they found something which made them laugh till they cried. "Look, Duck," they said. "Look what is under your bunker. A next box with an egg in it." Duck peered at it unbelievingly. Donald opened a sleepy eye. "Yeah, did I say?" he exclaimed. "Do you mind what I said, Duck? You must have laid it last night all unbeknownst." Then Duck laughed too. "You win, Donald," he said. "It'll take a clever engine to get the better of you." The duckling settled at the station and became a pet with passengers and staff. She carefully inspects all parcels and luggage and sees that the porters stow them properly in the vans. When she wants to swim, she flies to a nearby pond, but always returns to welcome the trains. She stands by the cab, quacking imperiously, till driver or fireman gives her something to eat. Donald is her favorite, and she sometimes allows him to give her rides, but always gets off at her own station. The station master calls her Tilly, but to everyone else, she is always Donald's duck. Resource and sagacity. Oliver is a Great Western tank engine. The other railway wanted to scrap him, so he ran away. Isabel, his faithful coach, came too, and so did Toad, a brake van. At the last moment they were nearly caught, but Douglas saved them. The Fat Controller was pleased and said that when Oliver was mended, he could help Duck with his branch line. "We'll give you Great Western colors like Duck," he said kindly. "That will help you to forget your troubles." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Oliver happily. Duck's branch starts from the big station. When Oliver started work, he often met other engines there. They all wanted to know about his adventures. "Amazing," Henry would remark. "Oliver," said James, "has resource." "And sagacity," put in Gordon. "He is an example to us all." "You're too kind," giggled Oliver modestly. But he was only a tank engine after all. No big engine had ever said admiring things to him before. I'm sorry to say that it made him puffed up in his smoke box. The Fat Controller rescued another coach called Dulcie. She trotted along with Isabel. Oliver sang, "Oh, Isabel's a funny coach, and so is Dulcie too. If I didn't look after them, they wouldn't know what to do." "Just listen to him, twittered Dulcie. "He is proud, he is conceited, he's heading for trouble," Isabel sadly replied. "I feel it in my frames!" she shrieked as they rounded a curve. Oliver just laughed. "Henry says I'm amazing. He's right. What do I care for trouble? I just push it aside." All the trucks are badly behaved, but ballast trucks are worst of all. Donald, Douglas, and Duck warned Oliver about this. "You think I can't manage," he said huffily. "Gordon knows better. He says I'm sagacious." "You might be good gracious, but say no more, Duck. It may be a pity, but the wee engine's got to learn." Today Oliver took the trucks by himself for the first time. He pulled the loaded ones to a siding and pushed empties to the chute. Then he came back full of confidence to take the loaded ones away. The loaded trucks were comfortable and didn't want to move. They had just realized, too, that they had a different engine. "Duck we know," they grumbled, "and Donald and Douglas. What right has Oliver to poke his funnel in here?" "Look sharp," puffed Oliver. "Smartly there." "That's no way to speak. Pay him out." The trucks moved off easily, and Oliver thought he had them in control. "Trucks," he told himself proudly, "don't play tricks on me. I'll arrange them on the middle road, and start away as soon as Duck arrives. I can't understand why he says they're so troublesome. They reached the station throat. Oliver's brakes came on with a groan, but brakes were useless against loaded, surging trucks. They pushed forward, yelling, "On! On! On!" Oliver fought hard, but they still forced him on and on and on. Their efforts lacking at last. "I'm winning," he gawked. "If only..." But it was too late. One moment his rear wheels were on the rails. The next they had none, and he was bunkered down in the turntable well with a deluge of ballast all around him. When Duck arrived, he was stopped outside the station and flagged to the platform. He surveyed the wreckage. "Hello, Oliver," he remarked. "Are you being a good, gracious engine? Beg pardon, of course, but we don't really like that sort of surprise. Donald and Douglas will miss their turntable." Later that day, Donald and Douglas spoke poignantly in Scots, and the Fat Controller spoke poignantly in English. All three left Oliver in no doubt at all that so far from being sagacious, he was a very silly engine. Toad Stands By. When Oliver came home again, the truck sang rude songs. They were led by Scruffy, a private owner wagon. "Oliver's no use at all, thinks he's very clever, says that he can manage us, that's the best you'll get ever. When he orders us about with the greatest folly, we just push him down the well. Pop goes old Ollie." The engines bumped him. "Shut up," they ordered. But they couldn't be everywhere, and everywhere they weren't, the trucks began again. At last they gave up. "We're sorry, Oliver," they said. "It's really my fault," he answered sadly. "I'm worried, Mr. Douglas," said Toad next morning. "This nasty spirit of disrespect for engines, where is it going to end?" "Dear knows," said Douglas gloomily. "It must be stopped before it gets worse. I believe Mr. Oliver can do it." "Maybe so, but how?" "I have a plan, Mr. Douglas. May I stay here today and help him? We are both Great Western and must stand together. Would you ask him before you go to favor me with a word?" "I'll take you to him, but he's always smart for the word he had in mind." "No, Duck, Toad's right. This trouble's my fault, and I must put it right." "I meant no disrespect, you understand?" "Of course not, Toad. Anyway, driver says the same, and he's arranged it with station master." "Very well, Oliver, but I must hurry. My passengers are waiting. Don't forget Stepney's tip about sand. Lay it on the rail as you back down and roll it firmly with your wheels. You get a splendid grip that way. Good luck. We three will be there to cheer you on when you give those trucks a lesson." "So long," smiled Oliver bravely, but he felt dreadfully nervous inside. "I expect, Mr. Oliver, you want me in the middle road as a stop block, like?" Yes, please." Oliver marshaled the worst trucks 2 by 2 in front of Toad. "This way, Mr. Oliver, it takes longer, but they can't give trouble, and if you leave that Scruffy till last, you'll have him behind you. Then you can bump him if he starts his nonsense." Duck arrived to find them ready and waiting. "3 cheers for Oliver and Toad," he called. Alice and Mirabel responded with a wail, and so wonderingly did the passengers. "Hold back," whispered Scruffy. The trucks giggled as they passed the word. Oliver dug his wheels into the sand and gave a mighty heave. "Oh!" groaned Scruffy. His couplings tightened. He was stretched between Oliver and the trucks. I don't like this. Go it, yelled Duck. Well done, boy, well done. Oh, wailed Scruffy. But no one bothered about him. Oh, I'm coming apart! There came a rending, splitting crash. Oliver shot forward suddenly. Scruffy's front bumped behind his bunker, while Scruffy's load spread itself over the track. Well, Oliver, so you don't know your own strength, is that it? No, sir, said Oliver nervously. The Fat Controller expected the remains. As I thought, he remarked. Rotten wood, rusty frames, unserviceable before it came. He winked at Oliver and whispered, Don't tell the trucks that. Bad for discipline. He strode away chuckling. Nowadays, Oliver only takes trucks when the other engines are busy. But they always behave well. Take care with Mr. Oliver, they warn each other. He's as strong he is. You play tricks on him, he'll likely pull you in half. Bulgy. It was bank holiday morning. The small railway engines were working hard. Their station was crowded. No sooner had one train started than another was filled with people waiting to go. Duck, Oliver, Donald, and Douglas were busy too. But they had not brought everybody. The yard was full of parked cars and coaches. Duck was waiting for his next turn. Alice and Mirabel complained of the heat, so he backed them into the goods shed while he basked outside in the sun. Near him stood a huge red bus. He had never seen him before. The bus watched the passengers happily milling round the small railway. Stupid nonsense, he grumbled. Wouldn't have brought them if I'd known. I'd have a breakdown or something. I'm glad you didn't, smiled Duck. You just spoiled their fun. Look at how they're enjoying themselves. Pah, snorted the bus. Enjoyment's all you engines live for. Taking the petrol from the tanks of us workers. Counter-revolution, he went on fiercely. Railways will be ripped up. Cars and coaches will trample their remains. Free the roads, he growled. Free the roads from railway tyranny. At the passing station, Duck told Oliver about the bus. I call him Bulgy, he chuckled. He's painted bright red and shouts, Down with railways! The next time they met, Oliver didn't laugh. Bulgy's friend has come, he said. He's red and rude too. He's taking Bulgy's passengers home so as to leave him free to steal ours. But he can't, objected Duck. Ours want to go to the big station. Bulgy bets he can get there before us. Rubbish! It's much further by road. Oliver looked anxious. Yes, but Bulgy says he knows a shortcut. That evening, Donald, Oliver, and Duck were preparing for their homeward rush. Duck's train was to be first out, but he had few passengers. He was soon to know why. Look, shrilled Oliver. Look at Bulgy. He's a mean scarlet deceiver. Bulgy had turned to leave. They could now see his other side. It had on it, railway bus. Stop! Yelled staff and engines, but too late. Yeah, booze nubs, cheered Bulgy. He roared away. The unsuspecting passengers waved happily. Come on, puffed Duck. He, Alice, and Mirabel trundled unhappily away. Alice and Mirabel chattered crossly. The nasty old thief! He's stolen our people! Duck wondered how to pay Bulgy out. Then, far ahead, a man clambered up the embankment waving a red scarf. "Danger!" he shouted. "The line here crosses a narrow road." Duck came as close as he could. "So this was Bulgy's shortcut," he chuckled. Bulgy was wedged under the bridge. Drivers of cars trapped in front and behind were telling him what they thought. Angry passengers cornered the conductor, demanded their money back. From time to time, loosened bricks fell, making Bulgy yelp. Bulgy's passengers swarmed round Duck. "He tricked us," they complained. "He said he was a railway bus, but wouldn't accept our return tickets. He wanted us to think railways are no good. Please help us." Duck's crew examined the bridge. "It's risky," they said, "but we must help the passengers." "Passengers are urgent," agreed Duck. "Besides," he chuckled, "it'll pay Bulgy out." They'd laughed and told the passengers to wait on the other side of the bridge. "Stop!" wailed Bulgy. "It might fall on me." "That," said Duck severely, "would serve you right for telling whoppers." Bulgy howled as he felt the bridge quiver, but it didn't collapse. Duck made good time for the big station, and all passengers caught their trains. The Fat Controller arranged a shuttle service on the branch. Passengers changed trains at Bulgy's bridge. Bulgy had to stay till it was mended, but he never learned sense. He told whoppers till no one could believe his destination boards, and no passengers would travel in him. He's a hen house now in a field beside the railway. If he still told whoppers, they can do no harm. The hens never listen to them anyway.